If you're applying for settlement under the Innovator visa route, then you'll need to get a letter of endorsement from the endorsing body for settlement. And the quality of the ones I've seen issued by the endorsing bodies, at least in their initial drafts, is relatively poor, I would say, and short on detail and explanation. So remember that the caseworker considering the application won't necessarily have your original business plan and won't have your original endorsement letter necessarily. And remember, of course, you're applying after at least 3 years. You may have got a renewal. But 3 years ago, the Home Office weren't even asking for all of the business plans. So there came a point about 18 months to 2 years after the program began that they started asking for it as part of the visa application process. The form, the Innovator Founder form, to this day does not require you, when you submit it and it generates an automatic checklist, to this day it does not ask you to submit your business plan. So that holds up applications. The Home Office have to ask for it. But originally the Home Office didn't even ask for business plans. And I've been shocked by the number of applicants who did not even have a business plan. So there are a couple of endorsing bodies who I won't mention the names of them, but they didn't even ask for business plans. So there's dozens of applicants who are now coming towards indefinite leave to remain, and they do not have a business plan. And that creates a number of challenges because you've got to show significant achievements judged against the milestones set out in your business plan. So if there's no business plan, then that is a challenge, as I say. And also, no financial projections or anything like that. Now, I've also been very surprised, not only at the quality of the settlement endorsement letters that are initially produced, but the number of endorsing bodies that aren't familiar with the process or are struggling in some way, and potentially, them putting applicants in a difficult position. So, of course, you have the legacy endorsing bodies now and the new endorsing bodies. But there's varying levels of experience. It's understandable in some cases if they haven't, for example, endorsed someone for settlement yet. But in terms of the letter itself, so the letter must include all the mandatory fields. I mean, the template is just the basis, right? You don't have to use the template as an endorsing body, but it contains the most basic level of information. But remember, on these fields, the description of the achievements and description of the role in the business, you might want to ensure that there's added to that a description of what the business does and the basics. As I say, they may not have access to the original business plan. Now, on the description of achievements since last endorsement. Yeah, bear in mind that if they are using the basic template, on the R&D section, for example, engaged in significant R&D, the mandatory field here, as I say, it's only a template, but the field here requires you enter what IP protection has been applied for, but it doesn't deal with the R&D, which is the most important aspect of this, right? That the R&D led to the IP protection. So I would have, if you've done that, then I would have as one of the achievements here the R&D itself. That would ordinarily be deemed to be an achievement. Revenue would probably be an achievement, and it's an opportunity in that field to elaborate on that. Of course, this is just a few lines big, but this can be expanded. It might be, a page, a half a page, or a page long, at least I would say. And then that gives the author of the letter the opportunity to elaborate on various matters, including the success criteria that have been met. Now, I have had a few clients so far who've hit the revenue criteria, so either 500K or $1 million. And yeah, the Home Office will be naturally asking for the invoices to support that. So the the settlement endorsement letter in itself is not going to be sufficient, right? The Home Office will take its own view, just as it's doing with the initial Innovator Founder applications itself. Getting the endorsement letter is only the initial filter. Then the Home Office will take its own view, thank you very much, of whether you meet the criteria. On the number of businesses customers doubling, I mean that's an important one. And the doubling, of course, double zero is still zero. So you'd have to take a particular point from which you say that the number of customers has doubled. But the more tricky one is getting data on what the competitors are doing, what other comparable businesses are doing, and for that you'll need reliable sources. I have had cases though now where the particular area that they're in is so small that they basically know the other founders, and it's in such a way that it's amicable, and they've literally got their data from them. They've been happy to share the data, but that might be the exception to the rule. I have had other cases where we've researched and used available material on what the industry standards are and what the number of customers is likely to be in the competing businesses. And then on the 50K requirement, I mean, I never cease to be surprised on how this can be complicated when it should be so simple. But 50,000, at least 50,000 invested and actively spent. So it may be more, and it's likely to be appropriate to have a buffer, because if £1 less than 50K has been invested, then that's insufficient. If £1 less or 1 penny less than 50,000 has been actively spent, or the spending is not qualifying spending, then it would be refused. So on spending, the categories of spending which might be questionable are those which you can't link to your business plan. As I say, assuming you have a business plan. So it's got to be linked to the business plan. So I would not include in that spending on yourself, your own salary, and peripheral spending, which doesn't go to the core spending. Also, spending on professional advisors, it depends on what the professional advice was that was sought. So yeah, do be careful about that, and collect the invoices beforehand that you're going to rely on as part of that. So one risk area is this, that if you make the application, so far I've made 10 applications now that have gone through for innovators who I've acted for over the 3-year period and then applied for. But I have had people coming to me with issues separately who I haven't worked with before when they're coming towards the end of this, and it's really surprising to see the different scenarios have taken place. I mentioned before that there was one of the endorsing bodies that was connecting founders and has left some people in really tricky positions. But assuming the kind of business fundamentals are okay, one of the things that you should put in place is an adequate record and an adequate application that you've made to the endorsing body. With a couple of exceptions, I don't think any of the endorsing bodies, new or old, actually have a formal process. Perhaps the new ones will, because the new ones, since being approved, I imagine will formalize a process for this. But most of the endorsing bodies, the legacy endorsing bodies, do not have a formal application process for settlement, for applying for the settlement endorsement letter. And then the question is what records there are that are available. Now, on the review meetings that are supposed to happen, if you're with a reasonable professional endorsing body, then they will have organized that and you'll have review meetings and they'll be appropriately recorded. But that's not universally the case. So to protect yourself, I would have, I would submit an application, even if it's not required, with the supporting materials to show how you meet the criteria. And that's then available, upon an audit of the endorsing body. And it's also available on your side if it's then requested. And the important thing is that any information that's been requested has actually been made available to the endorsing body. Because if fresh material is provided in response to the Home Office's questions when you make your ILR application, and that's all fresh material, then the question was, well, on what basis did the endorsing body make the decision to endorse you? The material should be before the endorsing body, before it issues the settlement endorsement letter, and that's the material that you should rely on when responding to the Home Office's questions. Hopefully the endorsing body will be asking similar things anyway, and hopefully this is all, as I say, obvious stuff. But as I say, in my experience so far, you can't necessarily take anything for granted. So far, I've had a good experience with my settlement applications for innovators. If you do want help, and then you can select a time to speak with me from the link below. I have a consultation service. Be happy to help you. Thanks. Bye for now.